Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again. Ladies and gentlemen, while a gap often exists between government service delivery and the digital experience that citizens and businesses have come to expect, the good news is that many governments are making big strides in this area. In the next panel discussion, our experts will discuss the next-gen technologies for seamless end-to-end public service delivery. I would like to invite Mohammed Ujaley, Senior Assistant Editor, ETGovernment, to moderate the discussion. Over to you.
Hello and very warm welcome to this special panel discussion for National Governance Virtual Summit, in which we are going to focus on how next generation technologies are strengthening seamless end-to-end public service delivery. To lead the discussion, I am joined by Dr. Chandra Shekhar Kumar, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Panchayati Raj with Government of India, Mr. Babu Ahmed, Commissioner for Cooperation and Registrar of Cooperative Societies, Government of Andhra Pradesh, and Managing Director of Andhra Pradesh Dairy Development Cooperative Federation Limited. Mr. Nand Kumarum, Managing Director, Madhya Pradesh State Electronic Development Corporation, and also the CEO of Madhya Pradesh Agency for Promotion of IT, Department of Science and Technology, Government of Madhya Pradesh. Mr. Snehil Kumar Singh, Deputy Secretary IT with Government of Kerala, and also the Director of Kerala State IT Mission. I'm also joined by Mr. Puneet Gupta, Managing Director and Vice President India and SAARC for NetApp, Ms. Jyoti Saini, Public Sector Head for Freshworks, and Mr. Rajeev, Chadha, Regional Director, ServiceNow. Thank you everybody for joining and taking out time for this special panel discussion. Let me begin with Mr. Babu. Mr. Babu, what we have noticed that the next generation technology that we have been talking about, especially AI, ML, blockchain, AR, VR, IoT, and cloud. They are actually playing very important role in e-governance. There are some of the state actually they are trying to explore those technology, and there are some use cases that they have been using. I would like to understand from you, based on your department and your organizations, as to how you are exploring this technology. If you could share some of your experience, if you have done something around that.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, the entire gamut of government service delivery and the government internal, processing is now moving into the IoT ecosystem. Now, when you call it as IoT, it can involve a authentication device to a camera or a mobile device which is there with the field level functionality. So if you look at that in the Andhra Pradesh ecosystem, we have around 10 million IoT devices. Now this is only in government. If you count the cameras, we have around 20,000. If you look at the ANMs, the ASHA workers, the volunteers, the village secretariat mechanism, we have lakhs of devices in there. Now there is, when there are so much of an IoT ecosystem being created, what we also have to do is something called as, the change management. There are a lot of archaic rules, regulations, which needs a lot of updation, and then come in with workflows. And when we come in with workflows, there is a tendency in government, to go in the watertight mode. That means each department will have its own, horse's eyes, and they give their direction. They look at only in one direction. So here what we have set up is, we have set up something called as a golden data kind of a scenario. It can be named in different ways, but here we call it as golden data. So we have an RTGS environment wherein the citizens' data along with all the other department parameters are there. And this data is updated regularly through all these IoT devices. So in this way, the service delivery becomes very, very easy. There are no duplications and it goes to the real person. So I need not say that the virtual IDs which exist in this platform help us to ensure that it goes to the right person, not to the ghost or James Bond kind of characters who are there. So this itself will ensure that there is a lot of inclusion. We exclude these bogus people. Because of that, with the resources that we save, we are able to divert it to the people who are really in need. Now, this is related to service delivery. Now, in terms of operations and maintenance, if you look at the street lights, the kind of, the piezometers, the climate stations, all the cameras, all these are actually brought in, through this IoT system and connectivity, which helps in decision making much faster and also transparency. Another set of, technology that we use is that of, the file management systems, the process management system, which needs to be secure. So if you look at the AP, every person right from the village till the chief minister signs every file digitally. That shows the kind of ecosystem that is existing. Now, when all these are there, we have to have tools, using AI and ML platforms to sieve the data, to bring out, the data visualization in the proper way. So there is a set of team who works on that. So it's a gamut every day. Now, just before I came and joined here, we released a number 1092 to all the people to crowdsource the data of the people who are stuck in Ukraine. We don't have that. If you look at it, I asked the Ministry of External Affairs and the Ukraine Embassy to give the data of people for whom visa has been stamped who went to Ukraine. They don't have that. So what is the only way is to get crowdsourcing. You publish a number, you ask the people, the relatives, the parents to call us and give the details so that we follow up for their evacuation. Right. So on the go, on the fly, we have to release a methodology to do that, and technology helps us, especially these modern tools. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll come back to you again. Before I go to Ms. Jyoti, Saini, I'll go to Mr. Nand Kumarum. Mr. Kumarum, what Mr. Babu Ahmed was telling was a fact that what we need as an organization, a better visibility across our different program, different technology platform that we are using. So in case of emergency, like the migration that happened during the pandemic from urban areas to the hometown, and there actually we were not able to even define who's the migrant because we did not have the data, especially at that point of time. Same thing is by and large happening with the Ukraine cases. I would like to understand from you as to how two organizations that you are heading, and especially from a Madhya Pradesh perspective, how you are leveraging technology so that you are creating a platform, you have a better visibility across different set of governance model, and that is actually enabling you to do a better policy, or in case of emergency requirement, you are well prepared for a mitigating response.
Thank you. So I would like to say that, as Babu sir told, that we are creating databases in different departments. Now, the trend is that once you are creating a database or an application to collect database, the first question we have to answer is this database prepared to share? The first question is, the Jeff Bezos notes that used to be very popular in IT sector, that whenever you are preparing an application, it should be designed to share through APIs or web services. If not, you are fired by Monday. So that kind of culture is gradually coming in government. And I remember when a vendor used to come and ask for 5 lakh to 20 lakh rupees to create an API. Now we have tools which you can create with drag drop. You can create an API test on a particular load and then share it with other application. And it can be consumed in a day's time, and you are up and running in a very short duration. Unmaintained log for your own security and government protocol or any IT protocol. So it's basically a change of mindset that is happening, that whenever you create something, you create it which can be shared. And, as you said, the emerging tech side, the cloud or suppose cloud initially was seen as infrastructure, remote infrastructure. But now SaaS is creating traction. If you see the sales of Azure, AWS on the SaaS component, every function, every library is being charged, and that is being made available. So if I have to develop an application on top of an existing application which shares data, then it is so easy. For example, the pandemic thing that you told, the tower cells collect your information. So if there is a stratified data of citizen, as I think southern states also have, and we also have Samagra as our stratified state population register. So we could trace a person, and they enabled us to track movement of people. We used extraordinary powers of telecom, and we could see that where the person is resting in the night. And we created a scheme quickly. In a few days' time, we could identify people, we could transfer money wherever they were, and you could do that exercise in a very short duration. And these kind of intervention were done by many states. We were also one of them. In-house, we developed that. And we also learned that, as, say IoT, meters, smart meters of electricity, CCTV, all these are collecting tons of data. Now processing them using a smart application or an API systems, say proprietary or open source, and then developing utility for decision support or developing for fund transfer. So that culture is coming in government. So now we can keep on listing the applications that we have, and we can, if time permits, we like to do that. But I want to emphasize on this, that sharing data in an easy format and in a way which can be consumed by other application, and making it also available for people. Now there is a big people outside, there is a big demand. They want data. Say, for example, satellite images that we get on a monthly basis from ResourceSat 2A, and we are creating layers and developing signatures based on top that, crop grown, say wheat or any other signature that we are developing. And then we have a online Girdavadi system. We triangulate the two data and then come up with a forecast of the, say, crop yield that we'll get, and then further triangulate with crop cutting data. This insurance company wants this data because that goes into their premium calculation. Crop advisory firms want this data because they want to advise a particular parcel land owner with a particular advice on a crop. These data we have to share in public with consent management protocol of citizens. So these are the concerns that is now gradually being debated in government circles, that how to handle consent, how to make data which can be shared, how to give it to people so that they can innovate based on this data. See, in government, we cannot see that this entire work can be done by government agencies alone or government departments alone, because we have a scheme administration approach. So, and the creativity or the bandwidth with which the private person or innovative guy can come up with a solution and monetize it, you will always be running short of those ideas and running short of the implementation pace. So here I see a lot of opportunity going in that direction.
Absolutely. Before I go to Ms. Jyoti, Saini and Mr. Puneet Gupta, Mr. Snehil, would you like to add especially your views around as to how we can use next generation technology in governance and improve our public service delivery?
So firstly, I would like to just completely resonate with what Nand Kumarum sir just right now said about data sharing, because we in Kerala are also working on a very similar problem at this point of time, where it's quite natural when the applications were developed, they were developed in silos, and we never thought that, okay, there could be a use case where we require data from some other department. So a very clear example for when we're talking about governance is like Kerala suffered from floods in 2018 and 19. During those floods, a very simple question came that can we get a list of the people in that particular villages who might have been affected? Now, the revenue department might not have that data ready, but it would be available with the Panchayat and the municipality database. The only question is that how quickly we can get those data and start using and start implementing whatever we want to do. So that is where the demand came for that kind of a problem. The second aspect, which I understand in terms of service delivery, is that when ultimately government is for facilitating certain aspects for the citizens, the interaction between citizen and government is only related to the schemes that you are availing. So those schemes have to be made in a way that the citizen have to, be least bothered. That is what my understanding is. The amount of information exchange between the citizen and the government should be minimal in that nature, which leads to other set of problems which we are trying to address, which Nand Kumar sir also pointed out, that we need to see that what is the use case of that data. If you're talking about, for example, a particular village is being affected by a particular disease. So we as government obviously have certain limitations on how we do it, but at the end of the day, we have to be a little protectionist of the privacy also, when you're dealing with citizens, when you're dealing with personal data. So I feel that the demand is coming up gradually within the government circles and also outside the government circles, when we are saying that, okay, we need to have certain tools which are smart in a way that, we can analyze the data which is already there. That being very static, personalized data or scheme disbursement data, be it ration cards, and it opens up opportunities which are incredible. If you see, we have not actually delved into data driven policy making as of now, because our data in itself is not very mature. But if we have data sets which we are talking to each other, which are tested, which are cleaned, we can actually create models which we can give to social scientists and say that, okay, if this policy working or not. A very simple question is that ration distribution for particular panchayat, is it leading to increase in income levels, or is it leading to increase in savings? All these simple problems which are very important as a policy matter could be resolved if you have correct information. And of course, at the end of the day, it is about how simplified the processes of government you can make for the citizens to avail any kind of services, any kind of benefits, and any kind of grievances which are there. So at the end of the day, the crux of the entire structure that we're making is with having a secured and a transparent and a simplified manner, so that the people can take the services which the government is offering.
Absolutely. Mr. Gupta, a couple of speakers that spoke so far, they put forward very eloquently the fact that data is there within government organization. If you look at, we have a different data sources coming from different organization. We have Aadhaar, we have GSTN, we have UPI, and even in different states there are different kind of data, and some of them are using technology to harness those data. In a sense, like some of them might be using some data analytics tool, but we don't see the relational understanding of data. What Mr. Snehil was saying, that we are still at the nascent stage. In that light, I would like to understand from you, with lots of data actually being generated, and there is rapid digitization that is happening within public sector organization, there is some tech gap actually in terms of the adoption of technology. How actually organization like yours or any organization which is into the technology enablement can actually fill those gaps? And based on your experience, given the fact that you have worked in a different area altogether, what is your assessment of data generation and how actually we can make them more relational, so that what Mr. Snehil was saying, that we should be able to utilize those things for our policy making, and ultimately we should have a visibility whether the ration which is being provided, is it bringing any change in income level, any change in nutrition health level, or something like that.
Thanks. I think great question. And let me just give some context, because you talked about the gap that exists and how technology can fill. And I'll just go back a little in time to address the gap part, right? I think India's journey on digitization, especially in government, has been very remarkable in the last about 14, 15 years. Just think of the way we file our tax returns, the way we get a passport, the way our property tax gets filed, the way land records are digitized. If you go back 15 years and now, or even birth and death certificates, I think it's a very different world. And I think citizens have got used to this service today, but way back in time, that wasn't the case. So to address the gap, there'll always be a gap between what people want and what technology is serving. But clearly, we are in a far better state today than what we were years back. Now, what this also does is that when citizens experience good service, they get used to it and they want more. And given the political environment and the demographics, governments want to offer more, right? So that's one part of the story. The second, I think what I heard from the panelist, and which was obviously music to my ears for the kind of work that we do, is about the data that's getting generated. And Mr. Babu Emma talked about these 10 million IoT devices, and that too only in government in one state. And I'm sure that there are like billions of these devices. So what's happening today is the amount of data that's getting generated every year is far more than what has happened in all the years put together. And there is this bulge of data that's coming. And where is this data sitting? It's sitting in IoT devices. It is sitting on data centers at the edge or the core, on-prem, on cloud. Any way you look at it. So this data is everywhere. I think the first thing is there is a need to recognize that data is an important asset. And there is this term that keeps getting used, that data is the new oil, right? Probably now it's become a little bit of a cliche, but
But I think there's a need to recognize that it's a very important asset. And government probably is one of the biggest repository of data. And like you've heard from the panel, that there's a need to share data with consent, with taking cognizance of privacy issues and all the other stuff. But there's a need to share that data. In my view, the world today is very different the way it was in last 3 or 4 years. One, data generation is more. Broadband is far stronger than what it was. Still not fully there. Mobile apps is far better than what it used to be. So clearly the tools that are available, which is either AI, ML, analytics, I think are far superior than what they used to be. And in my view, there is enough technology available to harness that data. The question, like the panel said, is about use cases. The question is going to be about how is it going to serve the citizens? Is it really going to benefit? And how do you have meaningful use of the data that's available? And first of all, is your data secure and safe? And are you able to keep it in the right way? I think the possibilities are endless. A lot of technology available. Challenge is going to be in our own mind and what we can do.
Right, absolutely. And that also brings to the point wherein that you already have set in some technology platform and the people have now familiar with as to how they are getting government services. So their expectation in terms of what we say in a enterprise space, CX, customer experience. So even the customer experience for the public sector organization, for people when they are actually going to government portal to access government services or citizen-centric services, their expectation has increased like never before. Ms. Jyoti, Saini, would you like to add your view, especially around the gaps that we see and some of the things that organization like yours can bring in to fill those gaps?
Absolutely, a great discussion and great points around IoT and Samagro Vedika and some of the initiatives which our government is already working on. Now, talking about the fact that there are applications which are there and they need to share data to make tools which can ensure an effective communications with the citizen is actually the need of the hour. Having said that, the privacy concerns needs to be taken care of the citizen, at the same time, ensuring that that content is available and it's helping in reaching the last mile delivery. So whenever we are talking about a new scheme or talking about grievance handling or reaching out to masses, so we look at help desk or we look at some portals. Now we have technology available wherein it can be catered to the citizen in their own language, at the convenience of working with various chatbots, with WhatsApp, and all these technologies are available. And we have seen some great examples by Covin and by Arogya Setu, wherein when COVID came, nobody knew what to do. People were queuing up the hospitals. There was no information available. So can we create some channels wherein we are effectively engaged in the communications with citizen? Yes, to absolutely. And that is the need of the hour, because like Puneet also mentioned that, the citizen are not same. The government is changing. Public sector is changing. We as citizen and organizations are also demanding a lot more from government. So as an organization, like, just to talk about a small initiative wherein during the second wave of COVID, wherein India was fighting the dearth of PPE kits and oxygen concentrators, we Freshworks worked with Niti Aayog to create COVID portal in 4 days time. To ensure that there is effective collaboration internally, and the oxygen cylinders and PPE kits and medicines, they reach where it is supposed to be going without considering the blockages which might be there in the internal collaboration. So I think very importantly, we would see more adoption of citizen-centric initiatives wherein government and citizen are in constant dialogue there are open APIs, and like Nand Kumaran sir mentioned that there was a time wherein sharing API was a challenge, wherein now these days we have got tools wherein it is just a click of a button, and so those are the kind of things we are looking at, so that whenever there's a pandemic happens next time, or there are migrant laborers who are going here and there, we can take use of that data, because government has those data, just that it is siloed, and how it can be combined, and not just give guidance to the government in terms of what they should be doing, but also provide a guidelines and direction to the citizen that it's okay, don't panic. I think this is the need of the hour, and absolutely modern technologies like chatbots, AI/ML, and service delivery models, which involve various engagement models, are playing a very important role, and this is how it will happen in time to come as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree with you on the fact that the more channel you could open during any time, that is really helpful for the people. And we noticed that from a communication point of view, from a myth busting point of view, MyGov played a very good role during the pandemic. But if you could have the same kind of thing and an agile platform wherein an officer need not to use so much mind, and possibly things could be run, as Nand Kumaram sir earlier said, that within 4 days actually you could have a ready platform and you could offer e-pass and other small but very relevant services to people on that time. Now I'll go to Mr. Rajeev Chadha, Regional Director, ServiceNow. Mr. Chadha, how do you see next generation technology shaping the future of e-governance and citizen service delivery? If you could share your views.
Thank you. Thanks for that question. I think before I come to the next gen technologies, it's very important to set the entire e-governance journey of government that we've seen in the country into context. And as all of us know, we've all been citizens of the country. We've all been witness to how e-governance has progressed during, let's say, the last decade. I think to begin with, it was digitization of large programs like passport, motor vehicles in terms of driving licenses becoming available online, land records, and so on and so forth. And I think during the last 5 years or so, our e-governance initiatives have reached a new high by way of advanced programs like GSTN, Aadhaar, and UPI, etc. As we look ahead, I think, and what we understand from the Government of India think tank directions and what we hear from MeitY, I think what is being envisaged as the future of e-governance is a state where all these disparate government systems, these could be different ministries, different departments, the idea is that they should become interoperable and the government systems should become more intelligent. That being the case, I think we are going to look at a lot of next-gen technologies like AI/ML and also platforms which will help provide this kind of interoperability that the government is envisaging as part of the future of e-governance in the country.
Thank you so much. Before I go to Mr. Nand Kumaram again, I'll check with Dr. Shekhar Kumar, Additional Secretary with Panchayati Raj. So with your organization, Panchayati Raj, which has a very huge mandate across the country, as to how you look at these technology, especially AI, ML, next generation technology, and what kind of benefit it could bring. And if you have done some experiment with it, possibly you can share those also.
So you all know this is the age of technology, and we all talk about e-governance. And in Panchayati Raj, e-governance means the right from the planning, implementation, and monitoring of all the projects and plans or schemes which is done at the panchayat level is done through the use of the technology and in the manner in which complete transparency is there and involvement of the people is also there. So this can be facilitated only by using the e-governance tools. So जैसे कि dashboard है, चाहे portals हैं, all those things are is really important. So there is no denying that AI and ML की जो बात है ना, वो really they are really important. And just I'll the magnitude of the issue involved here. 2.6 lakh our panchayats are there. So they all make their panchayats apply. If we talk about the planning, so 2.6 lakh panchayats, they do their planning and it is done on online and then GPDP, which can be seen by everyone in our website. So that is the plan. And the planning is done with the involvement of people. And
Right.
when you come to implementation, so now implementation also, so it is now all the workflow based. So our whole payment system, right from the release of money from the ministry to the estates, to the panchayats, through treasury in the forward mode, and also the expenditure, each expenditure of each work. So now everything is done online. So, and huge data, huge data is being generated. And now we are trying to analyze the data on which panchayats are like using, are they on track? Are they able to utilize the resources as per their mandate or as per their timeline and all? Now, because we have complete track of the expenditure. We can see in all the panchayats which are on board, their each work. And then monitoring part, in monitoring also, we have made compulsory the auditing of the panchayats online. Their auditing has to be done on board. And thereafter the follow-up and all. This is the whole system is there. And we are generating huge data. And
Right.
that's why now we are in the process of understanding how we can really use this much data for helping, for not all purpose, for the helping the users, the
Right.
panchayat, which are the users. The users are the blocks, the users are the district authorities, the state authorities. They can use this data for really helping them in better monitoring and implementation. So it's important. It's really important. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll come back to again. I'll go to Mr. Babu Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed, that brings to a question where you need a better collaboration, because most of the technology-driven project or any project in government organization, it is a combination of different partners. One stakeholder is government organization itself. Then there are consultants. Then there could be private players. So that means that we need to have a very honest, robust, and a long-term, far-sighted public-private partnership. And we do have a classical example of private partnership in the form of the tax system that earlier Mr. Puneet Gupta mentioned, Passport Seva project, one of the finest e-governance project in the country. In that light, what opportunity do you see, and what innovation that we could make as an organization when we are interacting with for any need with the private organization if they are coming to us, especially in relation to the technology project that we are doing?
Yeah, it's an easy and a difficult question at the same time. Easy because it's very straightforward, to look at the technology that is in front of you. We need not reinvent the wheel, go for the best, and then take it and do it. It's difficult because of the procedures of taking the best in, and most of the time we end up in not taking the best because of that, So I will say that this is a function of your requirement, okay, and the procedures that are in place, the procurement procedures that are. But if you do a hard work, even in government, we can have a cross section of people, right from an individual developer or a data analyst to startups, and then to the multinational companies, like Google and others. You take, and it's a collaboration at all levels. Sometimes a team which is working with a startup will be much more successful than a team which is working with an MNC. The reason being, there is a good marriage between the domain and the technology in the first part, whereas in the second part, there may be two bureaucracies. One is public and another is private. Conflicting each other. It will result in a lot of issues. So, but we should be open. We should have different procurement procedures to bring in. For example, we did a technical breakthrough in connecting remote villages, tribal villages, ITDs. Any amount of cable that you put, it's very difficult to reach some of those. So we have to go for cable-less technology. So we went for FSOC, that is free space optics. And the only company that does is Google, and that the Alpha, the mother company of Google. So we have to bring the people from there, and get it done. And it was highly successful. 100 Mbps of data flowing across 10 kilometers without any wire. Now, if you ask me to go for a procurement procedure to bring in FSOC, I may not be able to do it, because it's only one company who has that technology. So we have to refine our technical, our procedural parameters in this, and have a much more broad-based approach. You talked about passport. I was initially associated with that project, and Mr. J. Satyanarayana from AP was also leading that. That project is successful because the best partner was brought in. I would say that was a lucky partnership. If in the same process, if you have got a much a lower kind of a person in terms of efficiency, it would have been a big failure. And I would say this share is 20-80. Only 20 are lucky. 20 projects are becoming lucky and becoming scaled up and others. And 80 are failing because this marriage is not proper.
Right.
It ends up in divorce on the second day.
And that possibly we can see from a lot of MMP's project. Those were around 38, and I think on the finger you can count how many of them have shown great result. And now I'll go to Mr. Nand Kumarum. Sir, would you like to share your experience based on the fact that your own internal mechanism, especially MPSCDC and MAP IT, as a IT resource is bit strong, and we see these trend with the other state also. For example, in Jharkhand there is a JAP IT, and some of the state have started putting a lot of effort into capacity building, and they have a very good collaboration with their private partnership. Would you like to share your experience and some of the new innovation that you feel that we could do in relation to when we are actually engaging with our technology partner, especially in next generation technology, because most of know-how is not with us, not with the government organization, especially. I mean, if you talk about the autonomous database management or other thing, those all will come from the industry.
So here, one thing is very clear, and everybody agrees also, that government is not producer of technology. It is a consumer of technology. Now, once you are a consumer, then you have to respond to the products available. This is one way to look at it. At the same time, the producers have also designed their products so that I can consume. Say, for example, if say a cream is not selling big in a bigger bottles, you come with sachet formula. So sachet formula will come, the cloud SaaS model is a sachet formula for selling deep technology to people. What is happening in this space is earlier, there was this big SI model of procurement, which is very prevalent in government. When I say so, you buy the computer, network, software, licenses, all from one person. One person, say a big SI, TCS, Wipro, Satyam, some big TCS, like that company. But now people are changing their process. See, if SI is not making a computer, why are you buying computer from an SI? Let employees bring their own device. If a telecom network is not bought by or developed by an SI, why are you having lease with them? So now we are trying to break this. And I would like to mention two parts. One is what we have done. We have a 400 developer team, and we develop so many softwares for the state in-house. So what we are trying to do is, we have come up with a salary which is market linked. So we are not giving it as per government, and we bring in flexibility in that. We have tried to, have low code, no code in our team. So the 4-day, timeline to develop an application, that can be only done if you have a LCNC kind of team. And now, if you read the Gartner report or, on this, it's a stable product. Now, every big company has moved into this domain, and they are trying to develop it. So, develop a scheme, launch it in, say, 2 hours. That kind of challenge people are trying to develop. Most of the government schemes can be launched in, say, 3, 4, 5, 7 days. By the time administrative orders are out from the approval of the minister, you can come up with the software. So the LCNC is one big thing that I'm seeing, and our experience till date has been good, and we are cautiously moving in that direction so that we can quickly meet the need. Second is, what I see is, we should not go for big bang procurements, because then it goes right up to very top level. What we should go for is small ticket SaaS based procurement of specialized softwares. So for example, if I have one big agency to hire 10 resources and then licenses and all that, rather I have a legacy application. Put in a small team, connect it to the AI/ML studios of various SaaS service provider available on with CSPs. And thankfully, MeetY has done a good job in empaneling CSPs. So from there, we take that service, put it back in our model, and let this experience go for 2 to 3 years. Once this materializes, once we are able to confirm the signatures, once we are able to improve our workflow based on those feedback systems that we developed with our model, then we are able to convince people for some big ticket or say somewhat bigger consumption model. So these two things, if we bring our procurement, the OEMs and the service provider will also have to understand that gone are the days when you go for a big 400 crore, 500 crore projects. Come up with a small ticket, good experience, scalable model of procurement, and then you go ahead with building that capacity and consumer experience and CX that you are telling. Another point is that we should not sit in judgment over technology as a consumer. We should stick to experience and be flexible to switch between. If it's I think asking for too much, but if you can have a provision to switch and flip between suppliers, that helps us. So once we are designing our contract, in that we try to come up, sit with OEM and say that, okay, if this doesn't work, then we put this. But always, if this if else we can write, but something always goes wrong. And as you said, that many projects finally don't see light of the day or not the way it was initially designed. So these two, LC&C adoption, I'm seeing in a big way. Small applications and specialized software procurement in bits and pieces, not a big bang SI procurement that used to happen in RAP, DRP, or big projects that earlier used to happen.
Mr. Gupta, your point of view on 2 points. One is the public-private partnership and some of the things that you heard from Mr. Babu and Nand Kumarum. And second, on the fact that we are now moving, a thought process is emerging within government organization and even in the enterprise that the technology adoption that you are actually doing. In government cases, most of our focus is around the last mile, the ultimate beneficiary, which is people. That it has to be resilient, it has to be competent, it has to be scalable. So tomorrow, if you have to go from 1 to 2, you should be very easily able to, go to the next level. So on both points, I would like to have your views.
So I'll go one by one. I think what Mr. Kumarum just said, very, very significant and absolutely bang on. And he gave this example of the shaving cream or the cream in a big bottle. And, but if the consumer wants something different, like, for example, SaaS on cloud, then technology providers need to move in that direction. To give you an example, if you look at in the erstwhile scheme of things, all IT infrastructure, whether it was compute or storage or network, right, all was procured by government through these large RFPs that's being spoken about. Today, all of that can be procured as a service on the cloud. It can be infrastructure, it can be SaaS services, it could be end-to-end, which would include both. I think the challenge for the industry is to take their cutting edge technology and make it available natively on the cloud. So for example, if there's the best of compute or the best of storage that's available and that people would go use on-prem, if you get the same feature functionality and the advantages on the cloud, then a lot of customers will just want to do away with the large capex procurement and go start small on the cloud and go scale it up as much as you want. A, it's OpEx, B, it's like a consumption model. You don't have to go set everything up front. As a firm, I think NetApp has done that beautifully by making its operating system available natively with the hyperscalers, which is the Microsoft, the AWS, and the Google. What that does for customers is you can get the flexibility and the agility of the cloud without having to compromise on the feature functionality of what folks would get erstwhile. And like you've heard on the panel so far, that the data bulge is huge, the amount of data that's getting generated. So managing it efficiently, and now it shouldn't matter to all the practitioners of IT that we have on the panel, whether the data sits in their data center or it sits on the cloud, right? Especially with the work that MIT is done. So consumers should become indifferent to where the data sits. And I think it's for people like us to be able to manage that for them without their even having to go figure this out. The second part, and to the first question that you asked in the public-private partnership, I think it's really evolved. And I've been watching this space almost 16, 17 years. Have been deeply involved with a lot of projects, including the Passport Seva in a small way. I can tell you that that partnership has become a lot more stronger over the years. And of course, there's been learning on both the sides. Like we heard from Mr. Babu saying that 20% succeed and 80% don't succeed. I think both government and the private sector have learned from that experience, have become wiser to it, to go figure out how to make a project successful, what the environment is like, what to expect from each other. If you were to just look at on a scale of time, I think that partnership is far, far stronger. Have we arrived? I don't think so. I think there are still, areas that need to be worked on. But all I can tell you is that there is enough excitement on both the sides to come and work with each other. And I'm reasonably sure with the kind of work that's happening in the government today. In fact, if you ask me, experience of service in government in a lot of times is much better than even with some of the private players. We're all consumer of services with government and with private. And I can tell you as a citizen myself, I think my experience of some of the government services is extremely good, right? Sometimes with the private guys, we struggle a lot more. So I think there's work to be done on both the sides, and it will only get better.
Right. Ms. Jyoti, would you like to add your views, especially around what challenge do you see in digital technology adoption and taking it to the last mile? And if you could highlight especially as to how this resiliency and agility that we can bring in.
Sure. So whenever we are talking about service delivery model, we always see it from the perspective of the governments and department. And at times we forget about the end user, where they are situated. So one thing very important, which I see is changing today, is that there are multiple channels available to share those information with citizen. There are multilingual capabilities which are there. So when I'm talking to some farmer in Rajasthan, I would adopt a different communication technique than when I'm talking to somebody in Delhi. So those things are in place. And another very important aspect is that because whenever we are talking about service delivery in government, we are talking about large set of citizens. And it becomes very difficult. And we come from that time wherein we have all queued up into government offices to pay the bills and to do things, to now wherein we don't have to do that. And in fact, there are delivery models also to ensure that the citizen who do not understand technology can also make use of it. It could be through CSC centers. It could be through adopting a very simple mobile mechanism, through various chatbots, various interactive portals and platforms at their convenience, so that they can make use of the technology. Another very important aspect which I see is important in creating a service delivery model is that is it aligned with the like we were talking about, the having the open APIs. Do we have the full-fledged information to help the citizen? Because whenever we are talking about government, we are talking about multiple department, we are talking about multiple schemes. So for us to create a single source of view, in Freshworks we call it customer 360, wherein everything about that citizen. So what schemes he avails or she avails, and where he is from, what language he speaks or she speaks. So all this information can be made available to make an informed decision about the channel that we would like to reach to the citizen, talking about new schemes adoption or talking about taking their feedback. Because I think this would be even more important in coming times, wherein government is actually they are trying to find mechanisms to hear from the citizen also on how they are feeling, which I think I'm talking about like 15-20 years back, there was not much insistence on this. Now we have got channels and ways, and private sector IT organizations are providing many tools to streamline that. And specifically talking about solutions and not siloed applications is one important change which technology can bring and ease out the government processes, wherein we are talking about integrated systems. We are talking about a single dashboard, no siloed applications, whether you are trying to reach out to your citizen through social media, which is becoming a very important mechanism of communication. You would like to be there to talk to them about what's happening, what government is doing for them, what they are supposed to expect. And then so my point is that having an integrated framework of multi channel strategy in the front end and a consolidated back end, wherein you can have your analytics in place, so that governments know what's happening and quickly they can make a decision to make changes. So I think these are some of the things which would be marking way in.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And also, if you broadly look at as to how the public sector organization architecture, especially under India architecture, which Mr. J. Satyanarayana has put in
Yes.
place, and which is an open source based, scalable, a digital ecosystem. And the thing that you are referring to, having an integrated platform, a kind of single source of truth from
Yes.
where data could be and details could be generated, and that is by and large very much applicable with the treasuries, especially with the treasuries. You could see, you can find out, and those things are happening. Now again, I'll go to Mr. Rajeev. Mr. Rajeev, as other speaker have spoken about the role of next generation technology in improving e-governance services, and in your earlier remarks you also mentioned as to how this technology can play a very important role. Would you like to share very specifically what can citizen expect when some of these technology that you earlier mentioned get used? What kind of citizen services will come up in future, if you could share?
I mean, we all of us are staring at the future, so there are infinite possibilities. But few things based on how we have seen digital evolve and how we have seen governments, not just in India but worldwide, adopt such technologies to offer better citizen experiences. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that a lot of these citizen services that get offered by way, I mean, the entire experience needs to become more consumer grade. And what I mean by that is the .gov experience should become similar to the .com experience. The second thought that comes to my mind is, and this is around the technology that enables hyper personalization. I think with so much of citizen data that is now available across disparate government systems, I think there is a need for a system or like a single pane of glass for citizens and for government to be able to direct the right and appropriate, whether it is programs or aids, to the citizens for whom it is meant to be. So I think that kind of intelligence and hyper personalization should be something that we should consider coming up in future governance systems. The third one that comes to my mind is around, if I could give you a simple example, let's say as a citizen of the country, my driving license is going to expire soon, or my passport is going to expire soon. I think if the government systems could actually trigger a workflow whereby I am able to do all my transactions with the government online, whether it is submitting some new authorizations or it is submitting my new records as per the requirement of that system, I think that entire workflow and therefore the entire government citizen interaction that needs to reach the next level of seamlessness. That is what I would say, to my mind, is how a future set of citizen services should incorporate.
Now I'll move to Dr. Shekhar Kumar. Sir, would you like to share earlier you were mentioning about the fact that next generation technologies are there. There are some experiment happening. Some of the things are being done. You mentioned about especially the role that technology is playing in Panchayati Raj department across the country. Uh, can you also share some of the challenges that you see in terms of imbibing next generation technology? Why I'm asking you that, because there is huge dearth of capacity building, especially within the public sector when it comes to the AI, ML, and the metaverse that we all are now moving into it, and most of the companies have started actually working on that. So, could you share some of the challenges that you see?
So before I go there, let me first reinforce the issues raised by the panelists. And the issues are quite important. And let me reassure them the government is really working on the public-private partnership. And actually, most of the things are running on now public-private partnership only now. The ministries are now very lean and thin. And most of the projects we are working with the expertise from outside only. So, for example, let me give example. If you heard the Swamitva project, which is a very innovative project, in which we are digitizing all the land records of across all the 6 lakh villages. So all the households. So their digitized land record we are building. And you know how it is being done? It is done completely in outsourced manner, that by drone. And huge number of drone service providers are engaged through Survey of India. And so every state they are empaneling their own, and they are flying the drones, they are digitizing the land record, backroom, and then they are integrating with the existing land record. So this is all complete in outsourced manner. So there's a huge opportunity. Actually, we are now finding shortage of the drone service providers. We are not getting many drone service providers, and who can do fly the drone, digitize the land records. So in some part there is serious challenge we are facing. So there is a huge opportunity coming there. So see, the frontier area is opening, the service is opening, a lot of new areas are being opened. So now the traditional area, they are going back. So the new area is opening. So that is one. And the one challenge if you can ask me what challenge you are facing, so now we are thinking how to increase our outreach to send our messages, send our information right directly to the 2.6 lakh panchayats. Now we are going through cascade mode ना, state से district से पंचायत, वो काफी लंबा हो जाता है, बीच में information loss होती है. So still we are not able to get the best technology solution. Actually, one of my joint secretary has discussed with WhatsApp group and all, and they could send in one enterprise solution, maximum 10,000 people can only. So that, but there is no solution that suppose I send in English, in Tamil Nadu, it becomes in Tamil. In Kerala, it goes in Malayalam. So, there is a huge technical challenge there also. And so field is real open. And there is really another point to which the panelists raised, that is the issue. And I also really feel that there is GEM, the service provider. I think that requires some more innovation. So the really good people and they can come. So I think, and we have discussed with GEM also, and they are on job also. GEM and like Nixie is also there. So Nixie has their own way of empaneling the service providers and all. So all those things, challenges are there. I agree. And so that those require complete, with time, we need change. And so for challenges are there. So if you ask me, in 2.5 lakh panchayats, the reach of BharatNet is still only, say, 30 to 40%. Rest, the panchayats are able to manage through their own connectivity. And in many parts, in more than 40 to 50% panchayats, the connectivity, if you see the strength of connectivity is there, it requires to be improved. And that is, I think, is the challenge. And if you can make good connectivity, the reach of technology, will follow automatically. If you give the people a good technology,
Right.
Good internet, good speed, and very small latency, they will just improve it. So we do not need to teach the people. These people are very technology savvy. So education and technology, they are not moving synchronously. Technology is moving ahead. Education, so that is a challenge. And accordingly, and they need to. And many states are innovating in their own way. They are not depending on us. And they are huge. Every state has their own method of so outsourcing and partnering with technology partners and also. It is all going. But sure, more needs to be done.
Absolutely. We're in the last leg of this panel discussion, so I'll request all of you to keep your answers short. I'll go to Mr. Babu Ahmed. Earlier, Mr. Gupta mentioned about the key element of computing, which is network, compute, storage, and networking. And Dr. Shekhar Kumar touched on the networking part. Not only our router and switches, but also the networking, that the last mile connectivity that we are referring to. And there we see, we have different kind of connectivity in the form of mobile, in the form of fiber, in other form also. But there is a challenge, as Dr. Chandrasekhar Kumar said, that even all the gram, there is a coverage of around 30 to 40% only. And connectivity is a kind of vehicle. Once that is there on that highway, possibly you can deliver a lot of services, you can do a lot of experiment could be done. On your concluding remarks, I would like to understand from each one of you, since we have come out and we are coming out of the pandemic in last 2.5 years, and we have seen a sea changes during the pandemic, the acceleration, digital transformation for government organization, even approval of IS officers happens on WhatsApp, and next day the file moves. All those good things we have seen during the pandemic. As an administrator, somebody who is taking care of IT, completely an IT, what should be two key priority for you down the line in 1 year, given the fact that you have the financial constraint also, because your state is not able to raise the kind of money that you are raising in pre-pandemic era. That means your focus on a key project and social project has gone up. Project which are more related to people, those have gone up. So what should be the two key priorities for any government technology leader down the line in 1 year?
Yeah, I feel two parameters. In fact, this is an age-old thing. That is, one is state capacity and another is connectivity. Connectivity is still a challenge. So state capacity, it includes the vision of the leadership till the last person. How the technology that is actually designed spreads to the last mile. Through various modes of training. The tools that we give it and how we address do the troubleshooting on a regular basis and clear their doubts and make it people friendly. This state capacity, it also includes a vision wherein this technology has to be adopted by the people. I mean, there may be a change in leadership, there may be a change in the bureaucrat who is running it, but the people should ask it, I want it, and it should stay. There are classic examples of that in India. Many are there. I need not narrate that. The second one is, connectivity. We have to go behind connectivity. Connectivity will not come behind us. This is a parameter that I use, and even if you go to a village where we say that many villages are connected, but if you go to a village now, there may be one cell tower which may cover the Panchayati office or maybe some nearby structures. But if the Anganwadi center is a little bit away from that tower, or the A&M sub-center is a bit away, those don't get connected. So it's just not reaching connectivity or to a village. It's the scalability all across the geography which matters. Now we have focused on national highways. We travel from Delhi to Kanyakumari. Throughout the national highway, the mobile gets connected in one or the way. But if we go to a village and go to each and every house in that village, is there connectivity there? No. And there is no application of concentrated energy in this way. And this is a classic issue for the last 15 years. I feel that we have to use all kind of methodologies. We have to make this telecom network much more focused on data. Though we talk about the technologies like 5G and 6G now, how far is the basic 2G reaching each and every household should also be our concern. And the remote place like tribal areas, how better we can connect them,
Right.
In terms of latest technology. We should focus. I feel that there should be a single task force in India at the national level and at the state level focusing on this, which is absent as of now.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Mr. Nand, Kumarum, what Mr. Babu is saying that also featured in the finance minister speech, budget speech this time around, wherein she said that we need to provide the same kind of digital experience that we are providing people in urban areas, same kind of experience people who are accessing internet in rural areas. And there she also mentioned about the fact that how CSC could play some role. I would like to understand from you what should be the two immediate key priorities for any government officer who is dealing with the technology part.
So, as you know, this network connectivity is largely dealt by Government of India.
Right.
And it is the USOF funding that they are trying to put in. Say, in recently, BBNL had a 9-package tender for entire country to push this connectivity. But I think it didn't materialize, and they are back to the drawing board to design the project again. And you also heard that Starlink experiment, wherein you don't need that network and you can go up to 1 Gbps network without putting in OFC or tower. There are so many experiments on that side, and I fully agree with this priority. But at my level, at my state organization level, I have two priorities, I think, which I would like to share. One is we want to be application ready for the departments. When I say so, I mean that if they ask me that I need the inspection app to be rolled out for entire department with this questionnaire and with this dashboard and this analytics and whatever, so I should be ready. I shouldn't wait, said, no, I will take 3 months to develop it. I should have that kind of capacity to anticipate and then be ready with those applications. And that kind of capacity is there. So we are working on those areas using LCNC and integrations across the applications. Second area is that can I give the analytic or decision-making support systems on the available applications where there is a lot of data? So can I move data across applications, and can that be used by different agencies? So treasury to pension to beneficiary, that to grievance management. So these two areas we are trying to strengthen capacity. We have also asked for participation opportunity from private sector. We have bids in market. So these are the two areas where we are working, and I'm hopeful that our turnaround time for application development, which is now say a month or 2 3 months, depending on the complexity and the scale of the application, we want to be on 1 week timeline. If a principal secretary calls me and asks me, I want this, I said, okay, I'm ready. By and large, I'm ready. Just give me specifics. We'll be ready with specifics in a week's time. So that will be my high point if I feel, that, okay, I have done something in this organization, if I'm able to be that at a low cost, at a very, very low cost. So these are the two priorities I have in mind.
Mr. Puneet Gupta, that brings to the discussion around, you want to be application ready in a 5 days or 3 days. That means your underlying IT infrastructure should be modern, agile, and complete. You will be possibly experimenting with the Kubernetes native applications, microservices. With some of the states, I think Punjab and all Haryana, we have seen that they have been doing it. Would you like to share, based on your organization, what are two key immediate priorities in relation to the public sector?
India has seen a very massive buildup of IT infrastructure in the last few years. Last couple of years, since the pandemic hit, right, that infrastructure buildup was even more, right, equally in the private sector and the public sector. Having said that, we still have a long way to go. Like you heard from all the panelists, that the last mile connectivity is still not there, but the broadband penetration is not there. I think India will witness a lot of infrastructure build-up for connectivity and data centers. And with now new laws coming in for data localization, we will see a lot of build-up. But are we going to wait for that? The answer is no. And in my view, if that infrastructure is going to take its time, a lot of consumers of IT will leverage on the cloud service providers to be able to get their applications rolling. And like Mr. Kumarum said, that if he's going to be ready with his application in a week's time and there is need for IT infrastructure, then he's not going to wait for procurement or for that infrastructure to build up. There are these cloud service providers available. MIT's got them empaneled. Most state governments are dealing with them pretty effectively. All that one needs to do is go to them, take their infrastructure on a monthly or a quarterly basis, and go run your application. So clearly, as NetApp, I think we want to partner with these hyperscalers as much as we can. We've got our technology natively available with them, and that will allow customers to really consume technology on the fly, on pay as you go, on a consumption model, and so on. And that, I think, is our priority number one. Priority number two is with the scale that we think is going to happen in the next few years, we want to architect for scale, efficiency, and for resiliency, because the amount of data that gets generated is not going to go away. The demand from the citizens is not going to go away, and the government's initiative to kind of do a lot more for the citizens will also not go away. So I think we want to architect for much larger scale, efficiency, and resiliency.
Absolutely. Ms. Jyoti, Saini, would you like to add your views, especially around the immediate priorities that public sector leaders should have and some of the work in that area your organization is doing?
Sure. So I totally resonate with the panel that they're talking about the last mile connectivity and also talking about content localization, wherein, it should reach people who, and they can understand that and they can adopt it easily. So like Dr. Chandrasekhar sir mentioned that, when I am reaching out to somebody in South India, I would use the language that they are comfortable. So we are building when we already have those some of those capabilities, wherein we specialize into multilingual chatbots, and some of them you have seen in Arogya Setu application when you go and assess yourself, and you know that you are fine or you are not okay, and basis the selections, there are various workflows which are automated from the back end, and how country has managed the COVID fiasco with some of these initiatives done by Indian government is a great reminder of what technology and government partnership can bring to the table. So as an organization, see, we specialize into customer engagement and employee engagement domain, and our motto is to bring delight and make things simple. And given that we are a SaaS organization wherein government does not have to kind of look at a large capex model to engage with us. We are working on various innovative service delivery models across the India. We are working with Swachh Bharat Mission to create a unified omni-channel grievance redressal. Example, we were talking about network connectivity, wherein the internet is not available. Can we make use of telephony and get it integrated, and can we do something about it? So some innovative models wherein the end result is met. So that is what we are looking at, and also we are looking at working on internal employee collaborations within public sector, which I personally feel that all the time they are overburdened. There is a lot of work that everybody does. Can we empower them a little more, our officers, and not just officers but the agents which are there in field or who are facing the citizen? Can we give them better tools and better techniques to technology to answer the queries and resolve and work a little faster? So these are the two priorities wherein we as an organization are looking at.
I'll go to Mr. Rajeev again. Mr. Rajeev, as other speakers have spoken as to how they look at the overall e-governance space and some of the work that they are doing. Your concluding remarks, especially what role organization like yours, especially ServiceNow, play in this overall space, especially at a time when government is looking at a very agile and scalable workflow management to bring resiliency, security in its operation.
I completely agree with you that while on one side, we are talking of a consumer grade experience that citizens expect nowadays, more like a .com experience. However, at the same time, we are talking of information that is personal, confidential, and needs to be protected. Therefore, at the back end of such government services that are being provided, I think the back end systems need to be highly scalable, highly resilient, and highly secure. And ServiceNow is that platform of platforms, which, while it offers consumer grade services on the front end to citizens, to businesses, and other such entities that engage with the government, on the back end, we are an enterprise grade platform. And reason I say we are that platform of platforms is because, like I spoke earlier, there are all these disparate government systems. My understanding is that as part of the digital government mission, what the government also is looking to do is to break down these siloed government systems, is to interconnect them. And that is exactly where ServiceNow as the platform of platform has a huge role to play. We also have AI and ML capabilities built into our platform. And those capabilities essentially help providing the kind of hyper personalization that I spoke about earlier, so that we know which citizens are getting what experiences. The last one that I would like to touch upon is our workflow and no code, low code application platform capabilities. If we think about it, end of the day, all such digital programs are also about looking at smallish requirements, which may not be full-fledged applications, but smaller applications. However, they require a quick turnaround, and which is where ServiceNow's superior workflow capabilities and a no-code, low-code application development platform helps ensure that for any such program, the government agencies get the necessary agility to be able to quickly digitize such processes and be able to move ahead on their digital programs.
Dr. Chandra, Shekhar, Kumar, your last view, especially around the one or two key area that public sector technology leaders should focus on down the line in 1 year or 2 years?
I can't agree less, the reach of the activity and also the proper skilling of the people at the last mile. Those two things are really important. And if these two things are matched, then I think we are really there.
Right. We have completely exhausted our time. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist. I think you all spoke quite well on next generation technology and as to how it can create a seamless and end-to-end public service delivery, especially your views around how we can explore AI, ML, next generation technology and make part of our service delivery. Also, some of the innovation and that we can bring in our partnership, especially with government public-private partnership. And what Mr. Babu Ahmed talked about, the challenges that we face, especially on the connectivity part and capacity building part, which was rephrased by Dr. Chandrasekhar Kumar also. And if we are able to work on those areas, and Mr. Nand Kumarum very eloquently mentioned the fact that that we have moved on. We in a state, we do have application building capacity. We do have, team which is able to provide us the kind of technology that years ago we would only be dependent on NIC or maybe some third party partner, that the states are able to do it. And a state like Madhya Pradesh have shown with the help of MAP IT and those things. So thank you so much once again for being such a wonderful panelist and sharing your views.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for bringing out some very important and valid points. Now, let's take another break, everyone. Stay tuned and keep tweeting using the hashtag ETNGVS.